Welcome to another episode of Time, Talent, Treasure Radio from Taatjes Financial Group. Taatjes Financial is a company that specializes in helping retirees and pre-retirees build purposeful retirement plans. Custom plans that not only help clients steward their treasure, but their time and talent as well. They believe that if you're taken care of financially, you go even further to make the family, community, and kingdom impact you truly desire to make, which is the ultimate purpose of wealth. If you'd like to set up a no-cost, no-obligation meeting with one of their financial advisors, give them a call at 222-4236. You can request a meeting at taatjesfinancial.com or simply stop by their office on 19th Avenue Southwest in Wilmer. All right, we're back. Thank you so much for joining us today on Time, Talent, Treasure Radio. Ben Taatjes joins me on the show now, and Ben, we're kind of turning the corner, so to speak. We've been talking about mindset, market volatility, and we're going to start something new here today, aren't we?
Yeah, Jared, we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics. You know, I've always loved talking with our clients about the idea of wealth transfer. And, you know, we just came out of, September, October time, and we started thinking about, towards the end of the year. And for some people, that's a great time to be thinking about, are my estate documents in order? And many times people say, yeah, that's just estate planning, and meet with an attorney. And I like to look at that a little bit different. And I like to make sure people use the term wealth transfer, because ultimately it's what you're doing. You're stewarding your assets while you're living as best you can. But the best way to kind of get that next steward ready and to prepare them is to really undergo wealth transfer instead of estate planning. And there's a difference.
Yeah, and I think I would agree with you. That has been on your heart for a long time. We've been talking about this for a long time. Just kind of rewind the tape a little bit. Talk about what people probably think you mean and more or less what you do mean when you start bringing up terms like legacy. Certain things come to mind, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, in the past, I can remember early in my career, and I've been doing this 20 plus years now, Jared, and I can remember having, and you still see it, guys will have these legacy planning that topics come up, and hey, we're new legacy planning with our clients, and really all they're doing is talking about inheritance. They're talking about the financial side of what you're going to leave behind, and that's not legacy, Jared. You know that. We've talked about. I wrote about that in my book Repurposed. In fact, I look at legacy as that's the lasting impact you're going to leave behind, right? That's the people impact. Inheritance is the money that your kids get to spend, right? I'm far more interested in protecting legacy, true legacy, and that's your people impact, making the most out of your time with family. The money planning is important, right? The financial side is important, but don't confuse legacy and inheritance. I think that's very, very important right off the bat, that we say, no, what we're talking about here is it's both, but I think many planners, many advisors, even attorneys will get so caught up in the flow of assets and your wealth and kind of forget the assets that you have that you can't put a price on, right? They're the things that the part of you that you want to pass on to the next generation.
Well, we just did a podcast called Repurposed. It's the one we've been doing for several years. And last week you actually talked about how your family, they don't need your money. And again, this is used tongue in cheek. What they really need is they need more of you. And again, that's the basis of what a wealth transfer plan is, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I look at a wealth transfer plan, Jared, the key components to that, and probably the differentiators, we'll go through them today, but I think the key thing, big picture, is that there's just more focus on preparing the person or persons that are going to be using the wealth. There's a transfer of wisdom and the financial resources. So there's a quote out there, and I don't know who to attribute it to, but I've heard it where you should never transfer wealth without wisdom, right? I think that can be a big problem. When you transfer wealth without wisdom, you can run into big issues.
Yeah, and again, the biggest change here, the biggest mindset shift here is that when you have a will or something like that, a lot of these funds are transferred upon death. But what you're talking about is not only trying to transfer some of the wealth, but also the wisdom alongside it, because you get a bigger impact, so to speak, and that's what we're going after.
Yeah, I think that talk about impact. That's probably the first differentiator between a estate planning, if you will, and wealth transfer planning, is that estate planning will probably more look at the impact on the donor and the estate of the donors being the highest priority. Now that's important. Tax issues are important, and estate tax. We want to be mindful of that when we visit with clients and attorneys. But I think wealth transfer also first looks at the impact on the beneficiary. That's probably the highest priority. So even if it's best to get all of your wealth out of your estate or a significant amount of it out of your estate, but yet the beneficiary's not ready, a wealth transfer plan would say, hold on, we've got to consider the beneficiary.
Yeah. Well, what a question to ask somebody who is making a plan like this. I would imagine a lot of those conversations are based around who's going to get what, and you're talking numbers, but rarely does the question come up like, is this person or is this family ready to receive that, and what can you do about it?
Yeah, I think we start to make sure we're, the fair versus equal conversation comes up a lot, Jared. We're looking at each beneficiary and kind of looking at when, right, they should receive the assets. So we have a webinar out there. I've talked about the 3 most important questions every financial plan should have, right? The first one is essentially, what are you stewarding today? The second question kind of comes down to, how much of that do you need, right, now and in the future? And the third question is, what do you do with the rest? And I think this wealth transfer plan allows clients and our the attorneys that we're working with to help frame it better, so they can say, okay, what are you going to do with the rest? Somebody else is going to have that wealth. Somebody else will have it, so we got to prepare them.
We're running out of time here. We're going to pick up this conversation next week, but kind of tee people up as to some more key differences that we're going to explain next week.
Well, I think the piece of this that I want to drive home today is that it's beneficiary driven. So you're looking at the ultimate benefactor of your estate, and then also it is a releasing of control, Jared. It's estate planning, kind of you hold on to it as long as possible, and wealth transfer says no, it's not mine. I think there's a stewardship aspect to this too. Where if you can picture holding on to money really tightly, a closed fist brings tension. When you can open that fist up and you can say, okay, and just hold it in front of you, and say, okay, I'm managing this. I'm holding onto it loosely. Part of that is who's going to use that next, preparing them.
All right, Ben, that sounds good. Well, if you want to get started with your specific wealth transfer plan, now is the time to give Taatjes Financial a call and set up your no-cost, no-obligation meeting. You can give them a call at 222-4236. You can request a meeting online at taatjesfinancial.com, or feel free to stop by their office. They are located on 19th Avenue Southwest in Wilmer. And just a quick reminder, we have a brand new episode of Retire Repurposed coming up later this week. Ben Taatjes and I talk about how retirement should be the time that retirees actually step into their greatest moments, where the light inside really begins to shine. We talk about that coming up again later this week, right here on KWLM on Friday at 4:30. I'm Jared Sebesta, joining you in this episode of Time, Talent, Treasure Radio. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Securities offered through Avantax Investment Services. Member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Avantax Advisory Services. Insurance services offered through an Avantax affiliated insurance agency.